Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. It's now 2 o'clock, so we will go ahead and start. I have put a few bullet points up there, just a little bit of housekeeping. At this point, I probably just want to reiterate that if at any point during this webinar you have any questions at all, please feel free to use the chat facility to post those questions, and time permitting we will have a Q&A at the end, so we'll look through the questions and we'll answer them. If for any reason we run out of time, what we'll do is we'll be collecting all of those questions and we'll be sending them out afterwards with the answers. So if your question hasn't been answered, fear not, we will be sending out an answer at that point. Okay, so without much further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start. So this webinar here is Connect and Collaborate with your clients in real time with CCH OneClick. My name is Natasha Kobrak and I'm the Senior Product Manager for CCH OneClick. And I'm also here with me today is the Senior Product Manager for our digital products, who is Phil Thornton, who will be also talking about some of the features that he has within CCH OneClick that will be of benefit to your clients. So what is CCH OneClick? We like to show this slide when we talk about CCH OneClick. It's a bit of a visual representation of all the pieces that fit together. Well, I'm not sure why that's going ahead. It's a bit of a visual representation of all the pieces that fit together that make the CCH OneClick and CCH Central ecosystem, so to speak. CCH OneClick is an online tool set which is fully integrated to CCH Central. So whereas CCH Central is a product that most of our practices use today to manage their compliance work, to manage their clients, their documents, etc., CCH OneClick is a complementary workspace that sits together with CCH Central and serves to complement the facilities in CCH Central with an online tool set that they will need to manage a lot of the work that is coming in today from making tax digital and document and file sharing, etc. So whereas advisors spend a lot of their time in CCH Central managing their day-to-day operations, CCH OneClick is there. It links to CCH Central, uses the same database and same clients as CCH Central, and it uses those clients to provide them with online tools for their work that they do in their day-to-day. There's a workspace for the advisor, and there's also a workspace for the client. And so it allows both of them to correspond and to collaborate with each other through these online workspaces, together with all the work that they're doing in CCH Central. So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to show a little bit of a demonstration around what we can do with client workspaces, how we manage the client workspaces, and basically everything you need to know about what you can offer your clients through CCH OneClick. To do this, I'm going to start off by going into CCH Central. So a lot of those on the call today will recognize CCH Central. This is where you will be doing the bulk of your work. It'll be where you're managing your clients, where you're doing your compliance work, and where you're spending a lot of time every single day. So this here is a home page, and it's got a bit of some information here for you around messages and documents and your tasks. What I'm going to talk to you about is how you can go ahead and how you can activate workspaces for your clients to be able to access CCH OneClick themselves. And to do that, you do that through CCH Central. So CCH Central is where everything starts. Now, I'm going to pick a client to show this principle. I think I've got one that I can choose. Here we go, Moira Brandon. Now, Moira Brandon is my client, and she doesn't have CCH OneClick yet. You can see here that her status is not activated. Now, to activate any client, it's very, very easy. You need to make sure that they have an email address. That's obviously very important because their email address that they have in their system is the email address that will be their username to access CCH OneClick, and they will also need it as an email address in there in order to be able to receive activation emails. So without that, you can't activate them. So that's kind of number one thing in there. But she has an email address, so that's fine. All you'd have to do at this point in order to activate Moira Brandon for CCH OneClick is to go ahead and to press the Activate OneClick button here in the ribbon bar. So all I'd have to do is go ahead and tick that, and again, it comes up with a message to say, do I want to enable access to OneClick for Mrs. Moira Brandon? Now, I've pressed OK, and what comes up at this point is a list of one-click features that I can enable for her. And this is one of the big benefits here of CCH OneClick, is that it really is very, very customizable for both the advisor and for their client. The advisor can choose which one of the one-click features they want to enable for Moira Brandon. So, for example, I could choose to add digital data collection, which is a facility I'll be talking about in a bit more detail, or even the VAT returns, which Phil will be talking about as well. Or if I only want to give her access to the one-click workspace, which has the message and document exchange facility, I can leave it like that, which is what I'll be doing right now. And I'm going ahead and press OK. And at this point, what happens is I'm activating that client, and that client will be receiving an activation email that they can then follow in order to enable their CCH OneClick access. Okay. Now that I've done that, one thing that I'd like to show is I get a lot of questions about activating in bulk. And this is something that a lot of practices do, because once they get OneClick on board, they want to be able to activate a whole bunch of clients in one go and not have to go in to each individual client to activate them. Whereas once you've got OneClick installed, you might want to make activation to CCH OneClick as part of your client onboarding process. So when you set up a client in the system and you enter their details, you go ahead and activate them individually using the way I just showed now. When you pick OneClick up for the first time, you'll probably want to be activating your existing clients in bulk, and you can do that. And you can do that through the Find Clients Facilities page here. So if I click into this, and I'll just pick out my entire client list in here so we can have a look at that in a little bit more detail. Okay. What you can see in here is a whole list of clients here in CCH Central that we have. You can see some icons in here. What these icons show is which clients happen to be activated for CCH OneClick and which aren't. So if they happen to have the OneClick symbol here grayed out, what that means is that they've been activated, but they probably haven't followed through and entered their password. But anyone who has the CCH OneClick icon available and in full color, it means that not only have they been activated, but they themselves have gone in, they've set their password and they've logged in. And so that means they are fully onboarded. If they don't have the icon, you can see that here, then that means that those clients haven't been given access to CCH OneClick, and those are the clients that you might want to be activating in bulk now. Now, I can go ahead and I can choose to tick as many as I want in here. And then all I'd have to do at this point is press the activate button. And what that will do is it will go ahead and it will activate all of those clients for CCH OneClick. It will send them out an activation email, and providing obviously that they have an email address and they have the right information in place, they will receive the activation email and they will all be able to go ahead and enter their password and be given access to CCH OneClick. So that's how you activate clients in bulk, is by ticking these boxes in here and pressing the activate button. Another thing you can do in bulk as well is you can actually choose to add features in bulk. So if you've already activated your clients, but you want to go ahead and bulk activate them all for maybe VAT or for data collection, you can even go ahead and tick the ones who already have access to CCH OneClick. And again, you can choose the activate button and select any features that you want to give to these clients, and you can go ahead and add them in to this particular area. And what that will do is that will add that feature in bulk to all of the clients that you have selected. So you can go ahead and do that. And I think a lot of the time we find that our advisors do that if they want to add the data collection, for example, at the beginning of maybe in March in preparation for sending out an information request to all their clients in April, they can go ahead and they can send that, they can set their clients up with that and send out an information request for all of those clients using CCH OneClick. Okay, I'll cancel this for now. Probably worth actually, while I'm on the subject of sending things out in bulk, you can also choose to send out a message in bulk. So if you want to send a message to our messages and documents facility in CCH OneClick, you can choose to do that as well. So you can tick all of the clients that you want to send this message to, and you can actually choose to send a message to all of those clients by simply selecting this button here, and it'll bring up your messaging area for you to be able to send the same message to all of those clients. So that's something that we do get asked a lot, and again, we do have that facility to do that in bulk. So I've shown you how to activate a client and how to add features into that client individually. I've shown you how to activate clients in bulk and to also bulk activate features as well. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a particular client. So let's look up Wayne Enterprises. Okay, so Wayne Enterprises is a client who has been activated for OneClick already. So you can see here that his status is activated. Now, Wayne, being a business, he's not really it's not really an individual; it's a business, and so Wayne is actually managed by directors within the business, and those directors are linked to Wayne Enterprises as associated contacts. So if I click into the associated contact screen, what you're going to see is that Wayne Enterprises has an employee of Alfred Pennyworth, and he also has a director of Bruce Wayne. Under this, you can see that Bruce Wayne has been activated for OneClick already. And you can see that because he's got the little logo in here, the little OneClick icon, which shows his status is activated. If you wanted to activate any other contacts to have access to Wayne Enterprises, maybe there is several directors who work for one particular business, or maybe it happens to be a husband that needs access to his wife's client account, you can do that. CCH OneClick is very, very flexible for those particular scenarios. And you can do that again through this associated contact tab. So you can have a look and see anyone who's associated to that particular client account. If you want to give them access to that client account's workspace, for example, here with Alfred Pennyworth, you can choose to click into OneClick status. And once you do that, you can go ahead and you can press enable access to OneClick. And what that does is it gives Alfred his own access into the Wayne Enterprises workspace, which will allow him to correspond and view messages and documents that are sent by the advisor. And he can go ahead and he can review those, or he can approve them if he's got that authority. So he can go ahead and do all of that stuff. So it's very, very flexible in the case of you having several people who work for one particular client account. Pressing enable access to OneClick will basically give that contact, again, if they have an email address in there, which in this case he does, it will give him access to that particular, to an activation email that will go ahead and allow him to set up his own unique username and password in order to access that particular workspace. So that's how you manage associated contacts. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give a little bit of a taster of what CCH OneClick looks like on for a client, and I'm going to show you it live now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Bruce Wayne's. Here we go. I'm going to go into Bruce Wayne's CCH OneClick workspace. So Bruce Wayne is an individual, and he is a client for Anna Copeland, and Anna does his personal tax returns. So Bruce has logged in, and this is his CCH OneClick workspace, and what he can see in here is what he's been given access to by the advisor. He's got access to messages and documents here, which allows him to view any messages and documents that the employees within the practice have sent to him. He's also got access to his digital data request area, which is a data collection tool that allows him to enter information surrounding the personal tax returns that Anna Copeland is doing for him for that particular tax year. And what he can also see over here on the right hand side under client area is he can see who in the practice is dealing with his account, and this information comes up from the client team area in CCH Central. So any employees who happen to be within the client team area in CCH Central will be shown in this client area up here, and the client will be able to see who it is in the practice who's dealing. He'll be able to know what their names are at a glance, and also if there happens to be a photo in their employee record, then he will also be able to see, what they look like and put a bit of a face to a name here. So you can see here he's got a couple of people who work within his client team. So that is what his CCH OneClick workspace looks like. So at this point, I'm going to go into the messages and documents area. And this is something that we've had live for quite a long time, probably since 2013. We've had this facility live. It's now integrated with CCH OneClick. It used to be called CCH Portal. It's the same product, but it just happens to be integrated with CCH OneClick, and it has a lot more features than CCH Portal had. It's an ability for the client to be able to access documentation and also messaging that the advisor needs to provide for them. It's fully integrated with CCH Central, as is CCH OneClick, and any documentation that the advisor happens to be working on in CCH Central, any of the work that the advisor happens to be doing, be it personal tax returns, being accounts or documents that they happen to be holding in the document management area, all of those are linked to the messages and documents facility through CCH Central. If any documents that are generated within those areas, within any of the compliance products or any of the products in CCH Central, have a publish to one-click button in them, which will allow you to publish any of that collateral that you're creating up to your clients so they can review it in this secure message and documents area. So that's very important. That's actually probably one of the most important parts of this whole flow between the products, is that when an advisor is working within their client's record in CCH Central, when they are creating and generating those documents they happen to be working on, at a push of a button, they can send those documents they're creating for their clients up to that particular client's workspace. And there's no room for error of accidentally downloading that document and sending it by email to the wrong person, because when you're working within that client's record, that document can only go to that particular client and in their workspace. So very, very important, and probably a big selling point for this product, especially after GDPR came into effect. So Bruce Wayne has gone into that messages and documents area here, and this is what it looks like. What he has here are two what we call swim lanes of information. So you've got one here for Bruce Wayne and one here for Wayne Enterprises, because if you remember, Bruce Wayne, he is a client in his own right, and Anna does his personal tax returns, but he's also director for Wayne Enterprises, and he's associated to Wayne Enterprises account, and he has access to Wayne Enterprises CCH OneClick workspace. And that means that Bruce Wayne, the individual, when he logs in with his username and password, he will have access to both his own information that Anna Copeland happens to be working on for his tax returns, and also the information for his business, Wayne Enterprises. And this is something that we get asked for a lot, is that they do have the ability to access all of that information in one place. And what you can see in here is that there's some messages. There's one message that's been sent for Wayne Enterprises. There's a couple that have been sent for Bruce Wayne's particular account. And probably most importantly here is that you've got here a big number here in orange, is that you've got one document to approve. So this means it's a big flashy note to tell the client that they have a document that needs approval in the system, and they will need to review it. So if Bruce Wayne goes into the messages area in here, okay, you can see a couple of messages that have been sent previously. So one here that he's viewed already, and the latest one, which is their tax return bundle. And if Bruce Wayne goes into this message, you'll be able to see that Anna has sent the latest tax return that she's created, and he has to go ahead and review it and approve it if appropriate. And you can see that attachment in here. Now, all Bruce has to do at this point is tick the button here and press approve. And it's probably worth mentioning at this point, we do have a facility which forces clients to open the message before they actually press approve. You can see I don't have it enabled in this particular demo. I'm just taking shortcuts and approving it in without opening it up, but we do have that facility. So if you want to force your clients to actually physically open the message before they can say that they approve it, you can enable that within CCH Central. So I've gone ahead and I've approved it. You can also, the client can also obviously reject it as well if they wish. If you have multiple contacts within the client's workspace, you can set it so that all of those contacts have to approve that document, or maybe just one of those contacts, or maybe you can send it out to loads of contacts to approve. But if just one person approves that document, then the document is already considered approved, and you don't need everyone to review it and go through that approval process. So again, very, very flexible in terms of how it manages that work. So that is how a client goes ahead and views a document and approves it. But the client also can reply to a message as well. So, so Bruce obviously saw that message from Anna Copeland and can say something like, "Thanks, I have approved this." So very brief message just to illustrate this point, but you can see also that it does have formatting in here. Anyone who's used to CCH Portal will know that this is a new feature to have this rich text formatting in here. You can change the font, and you can obviously add some tables if you want to as well. This is both on the client and on the advisor side too. And also the client, if the client wanted to, they could add any files or folders into here, either through the add files button or by dragging and dropping them into here. Maybe they might have a folder with lots of information in there. They can actually drag that entire folder into there, and it'll go ahead and it'll upload individually all the files within that folder. So a bit of a shortcut in there. So I'll go ahead and I'll send that message now, and that's Bruce replying to Anna Copeland. So that is the message and document facility in there, and it really is just one of the many features that we have available for clients in there. Probably one of the most popular features that we have at the moment, again, especially after GDPR came into effect last year. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk a little bit about our digital data collection tools, which in this case, we have on the client side a tool called Digital Data Request, which is the client side of that whole data collection experience. Now, I will go into this area now, and it's probably worth mentioning this point that because we are very much focusing on the client side in today's webinar, I am going to show you only the client side of the data collection process. But if you do want to look at it in a bit more detail and you want to see both the client and the advisor side and how you send out data collection, we did do a webinar a few months ago on this particular topic, and please contact us and we'll be more than happy to point you towards that data collection webinar so you can review that and see it in a bit more detail. But just on the client side today. So this is the client's digital data request area. And what this is it would have been sent by the advisor, again through CCH Central. The advisor can send to CCH Central, again in bulk or individually, a digital information request to all of his clients. And what that will do is it will send them a list of the sources of income, and it is based on the previous tax year. So any information that the client gave you on their previous tax year, it will use that as a template for information that the advisor will need for this particular tax year. So all of these sources of income that you can see in here are all related to sources of income that the client declared in the previous tax year. And what the client can do at this point, you can see these sources of income in here. He can go ahead and enter, let's look at company ABC in here. And in this particular case, company ABC is actually information that's held within the digital tax account. So this digital data request area, not only is it pushing out information that is contained in CCH Central, showing the source of income that was declared in the previous tax year, and also what was declared in the previous year's amount. So you've got a bit of the client has a bit of a benchmark as to the type of information that's is being requested. It also will show the client information that's held within their digital tax account. So again, this company here has information that's come from digital tax account. And in this case, the client can review that information, which is 8650, and they can decide whether they are happy with that information by confirming it or not. And why this is important is it tells the advisor that the client has seen that information that's held on them, they're happy with it, they confirm that it is correct, no further work needs to be done to contest that information that's held in there, they're happy for that to be used in their tax return. Because if they weren't, the client wouldn't be able to change it in here. This information, because it comes from the digital tax account, is static. They wouldn't be able to change it in here. They'd have to go back to the source in order to change that information. So it's important for them to be able to confirm whether that information is correct in there or not. So that is the digital tax account information that appears in the digital data request. Also, the client can go ahead and enter information. If we look here, we've got the Bat Cave in Gotham City. So that's some information on land and property that the client might happen to own. And the client can go ahead into here and can enter full information on this particular property. So this information doesn't come from the digital tax account. This is information you can see here. It's not grayed out. It's information that they can enter. So maybe rental income that they got from the the Bat Cave rather than the tax cave. The Bat Cave in in this tax year is something like, how much would you pay for a Bat Cave? I'll say 24,000. Okay, so that's rental income that he got for that particular year. And then you can go ahead and enter some other information as well. Maybe something like this. And it really, you can see there's a real breakdown here, especially in land and property, which has so many different areas that need completing. The clients can go in and they can enter information for all of those different sections in here, and it does a tallying up at the end of what the total expenses and the net income was. And if the client happens to jointly own that property, they can tick that. They can indicate the share of that particular property. And if any of the sources of income that they have happen to be in a foreign currency, they can also indicate what currency it would be as well there at the bottom. Now, as is the case with, especially with land and property, if they want to upload any supporting documentation, so for example, AP60 or maybe a spreadsheet that they have of a breakdown of costs from the Bat Cave, they can do that through the attachment section in here. So they can upload any attachments into there, and they can also go ahead, and if there are any messages that they want to send on that particular source of income, they may want to send to their advisor. If they happen to be confused, or if they think the advisor might hold that information, they can pop a message into there that the advisor will see on their side. So the idea here is to really facilitate that process of collecting data and information from clients, because we know that's a really big pain point that advisors face. It's that collecting of data back from clients and making sure they get it in time and making sure that it's the correct information too. Once the client has completed all the areas of this particular data request, they can go ahead and choose to mark it all as complete, and that will advise the advisor on their side that the information has been complete. And it might be that the client has completed all of it. It might be the client has left a couple that they think they'd like the advisor to review or to enter themselves. But ultimately, what this serves as is a marker to say, my part of the work here has done, I'm passing it over to you. So that's that button in there. So that is the digital data collection area, and I'm going to go back into the CCH OneClick workspace now for Bruce Wayne. So as I mentioned earlier, Bruce Wayne is obviously an individual in his own right, and he has work being done for him by his advisor on the personal tax returns that the advisor happens to be doing. Bruce Wayne is also a director of a business, which is Wayne Enterprises, and he is linked as an associated contact into Wayne Enterprises. And what that means, as again I mentioned earlier, is that Bruce Wayne, when he logs in with his username and password, he will have access not just to his workspace here, which is Bruce Wayne, but also to the Wayne Enterprises website workspace too. And he can do that by toggling between his particular workspace here and the Wayne Enterprises one as well. So no matter how many workspaces he happens to be associated to, it will show a list of all the ones he has access to here. So he can go ahead and click into Wayne Enterprises here. And what that will do is it will take Bruce into the Wayne Enterprises website, and you can see there's a bit of a difference here. Wayne Enterprises has the same client area, so it's got the same employees within the practice that happens to be dealing with their particular affairs. It's also got access to the messages and documents area, but Wayne Enterprises is a business, it's not an individual, so he doesn't have access to the digital data request area because that relates to personal tax returns, so you can see that's not on there. He does, however, have access to the VAT returns area, which we will be discussing now. So that's the differences there between the workspaces. And as I mentioned earlier, Bruce Wayne might be associated to many different client accounts, and as such he will very easily be able to log in with that one username and password and see all of his workspaces in there. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to hand over to my colleague Phil, who's going to show you the new client workspace functionality around VAT filing, which is this particular area here. Phil.
Thank you, Natasha, and good afternoon, everyone. Yes, what we're going to move on to now is the VAT returns area of the CCH OneClick client workspace. For those of you who may have attended previous VAT webinars in the past, you will know that that was focused very much on the advisor workspace. Now, with the client workspace functionality, this has come about because obviously you will have clients who will want to continue submitting their own VAT returns, and it won't be acceptable for them to engage with you to complete those VAT returns. They may want to continue doing that, and you may not want actually to take control of that process. So this is very much about giving the control or keeping the control with the client and allowing them to continue with the VAT return process that they currently adopt. So if we go into the VAT returns area for the client, the first thing we do is we look in the configuration area, and this is where we set up the client to be able to submit VAT returns from CCH OneClick. Now, the first thing that's really important to share here is that this will be using your client's HMRC credentials. So there's no link with your practice's credentials. This is their solution. This is for them to be able to submit using their own credentials. So you can see here, the client, Wayne Enterprises, has set up CCH OneClick with their own credentials with HMRC, and they've also entered their own VAT number. And once they've done that, they can now continue on the process of submitting the VAT return. Now, what I'm going to do at this point is go into the spreadsheet that we'll be using to upload into OneClick. And this is a very basic 9-box VAT return. The purpose of this is we we at Wolters Kluwer, we didn't want to have to provide you and provide your clients with a spreadsheet template. We wanted you to be able to continue using the spreadsheets and your clients to continue using the spreadsheets that they use in the VAT return process. So for this example, this is, like I say, this is just a very simple 9-box grid, but this could have a number of tabs on here. It could have digital records in here. It could have a number of different VAT calculation tabs. But what I'm showing here is just the 9 boxes. All that your spreadsheet has to all that has to be changed in your spreadsheet to accommodate uploading this into OneClick is to name the 9 boxes, is to name the cells of the 9 boxes so that CCH OneClick can understand where the information is contained within that spreadsheet. So you can see here for box 1, in the top left-hand corner here, we've renamed that cell VAT B1. This is a one-time only process with your VAT spreadsheets, but once you've renamed these cells, that's them cells renamed for whenever you want to continue doing those VAT returns. And you can see for box 2, we've renamed that VAT B2, box 3 is renamed VAT B3, and so on. That's the only thing you have to change in your spreadsheet. We'll come out of that now, and we'll go back into OneClick. Okay, and to upload that spreadsheet, we go into the VAT submissions area, and we select Add Return. And when you select Add Return, you'll get asked to load the VAT spreadsheet and to select a period, but actually the period is coming from HMRC's Obligations API, so you won't have to enter that date. HMRC will advise and it'll pre-populate with the period that they're expecting for you to upload. And I go straight to the spreadsheet, and at the point at which I upload that spreadsheet, it's now going to do some validation on that spreadsheet, and that's going to do a couple of things. That's going to say, A, can I find the data in that spreadsheet? And we can see that they're all ticks here, so that's good, that's worked. Secondly, it's going to make sure that the boxes add up correctly, and again you can see that we have 9 ticks here, so all is looking good with that spreadsheet. And we select OK. And we can see we get a little message to say that the spreadsheet was successfully uploaded. Once we've uploaded it, the VAT submissions area will give us some key information. So when was it uploaded? Who was it uploaded by? What are the periods that this return's referring to? And what is the status of that spreadsheet? So we can see here it hasn't been submitted. If I need to go into the spreadsheet and make some changes, I can always delete that spreadsheet from OneClick, which I won't do now. But I can delete that spreadsheet and re-upload that spreadsheet once I've made those changes. Another thing here that we've got is the ability to download those workings. So once you've uploaded the spreadsheet, that'll save the workings within OneClick, so you can always go back and review those workings. So if I click here to download, you can see that we've now got this option downloaded. Okay, so that's the spreadsheet uploaded and we are ready to submit. If I click on the VAT submissions, you can see this brings up the 9-box grid within CCH OneClick, and I can do one final check of those numbers. And once I'm happy, I can send that data to HMRC. This is the declaration. Within the advisor workspace, that'll be an advisor-specific declaration, but obviously we're in your client's workspace here. So this is a declaration that's specific for the end user and for the SME, rather than a practice declaration. So here we select yes. We can see that data was successfully sent to HMRC. And when we go back to the VAT submission screen, we can see that that has now been completed. A couple of other areas to show here. We have the digital VAT account. The digital VAT account is picking up information from HMRC's APIs live and populating that within your client's workspace. So they can see at any point in time a breakdown of their VAT liabilities and their VAT payments. There's also a history tab as well, and that will provide you with a historical view of all of the VAT submissions that have been submitted and the status of those submissions. You can also check on, if we go into the submission information, you can get information such as the receipt ID and the timestamp from HMRC. And we can also, if we go back to the submission itself, we can export that information to a PDF. So what we've shown today is, with relation to VAT, is that if you have clients who are currently submitting VAT returns themselves, if they currently use a spreadsheet and they are currently submitting using HMRC's online service, which is pre-MTD, they can potentially use CCH OneClick's client workspaces to continue to maintain those processes as closely as possible, swapping out the use of the HMRC's online service for filing through CCH OneClick's client workspace. So just to continue with the presentation, to summarize really what we've covered today with the client workspaces. CCH OneClick Client Workspace, well, it enables you and your clients to communicate together and share documentation securely. It improves the data collection process, so thinking about those digital data collection tools that Natasha showed. It allows you and your clients to manage their business and personal tax affairs via the One Client Workspace. It's fully integrated with CCH Central, so as Natasha mentioned, CCH OneClick is a complementary set of online tools that complement CCH Central. And finally, what we've just discussed, it allows your clients to independently submit their own VAT returns using their own HMRC credentials and allowing them to continue to maintain their processes that they have today. So we'll now just spend a bit of time looking at any questions that we've had through. So we've had one about the 9 boxes and digital links. So with the spreadsheet, there's a couple of examples here. So if you are using bookkeeping software and you also use spreadsheets to produce your VAT return, exporting the data out of bookkeeping software into a spreadsheet, that is a digital link. Once it's in the spreadsheet, linking between the different tabs will require a formula, but as long as those formulas exist, that is a digital link. So when we looked at the 9-box grid, how that information was populated, well, in that example, that was just a straight export out of a bookkeeping solution. If you'd exported it into a spreadsheet and then you had other tabs, as long as there's formula linking those tabs together, that is also a digital link. One thing that you must consider is that in the first 12 months of MTD, though, we have this thing called the soft landing period, where links don't necessarily have to be digital. The only thing that does have to be digital in that example is the upload of the spreadsheet via the bridging software to HMRC has to be a digital process in those first 12 months. But beyond the first 12 months, yes, all of those links will have to be digital, but that's just a case when working with spreadsheets that there's formulas in place to link those cells.
Okay, just passing over to me because I have a couple of questions here around CCH OneClick. One question that I have here is, can a husband and wife with the same email address use CCH OneClick? I do actually get asked that question quite a lot, specifically around how to manage that. Can people, sometimes you have a couple who might use the same email address for their correspondence. The answer is no. Each individual who wants to have access to CCH OneClick has to have their own individual email address, because that will obviously be the username that they use to log into the system. It's obviously serves as a bit of an audit trail as to who's going in, who's responding to questions, and who's approving documents that come in. So anyone who has access to a particular workspace should have their own email address. What we would probably say in this case is that a husband and wife should be associated to each other. So they may both be clients, or maybe one of them is a client and one happens to be a contact of an account. Either way, you should work through the associations that I sent earlier and link them that way in order to give them access to the same account. But again, they should have their own individual email addresses in that particular instance. So that's the answer to that one. Another one that I have here is, do I need to prepare my database in any way before installing OneClick? So CCH OneClick, to get CCH OneClick, you would need to add it into your license for CCH Central. So you would need to add it in as you would any other one of our products. So you need to do an installation of CCH Central with CCH OneClick in the license in order to gain access to OneClick. The kind of things that we recommend people do is, if you want to roll it out to your clients, you obviously, again, as I mentioned, you need to make sure that your clients have valid email addresses in their records, because that is what we use to send them activation emails. That will be their username. Your employees as well. Your employees will need to have email addresses in order to gain access to it. So make sure that the email addresses that you have in the employee record are valid. Probably make sure that they are work email addresses. Sometimes people will put in a personal email address for an employee. Make sure it's their work one. What else? Photos. So an employee might want to upload a photo into their record for it to appear in the client area. We also have some SMS facilities as well. If you want to use those with your clients, you obviously have to make sure that they have a valid mobile phone number in their records too. But otherwise, apart from that, that's pretty much the extent of what you would have to prepare if you were to install CCH OneClick from scratch. If you happen to be a CCH portal user now and you want to move on to OneClick, there is a migration process, and that being the case, you would, when you do install CCH OneClick, you would need to run through a little database verification tool which goes ahead and checks all of your data of your clients, and it makes sure that the data is in the correct format, especially the clients, specifically rather the clients who are CCH portal clients today, because they will then be migrated over to CCH OneClick and they will be prompted to reset their password. So that is a form of preparation you'd need to do if you're a CCH portal user looking to move to CCH OneClick. So that is the answer for that. The other question I have is, does OneClick have 2FA, two-factor authentication? OneClick actually does support multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication is, for anyone who isn't aware, multi-factor authentication is the ability for when someone logs in and verifies their identity through the logging in process, for them to be able to enter in information that they know and some secondary information that's on something that they own or something that they hold. Usually the information that they know, it happens to be their password. The information that they hold might be their mobile phone, and they might receive a text to their mobile phone with a code that will allow them to input that secondary code in at the point of logging in. It might also be an email address with an email that they receive, again with a code, in order to log in. Sometimes it's a third-party authentication device like Google Authenticator. These are all secondary ways of authenticating yourself. CCH OneClick does have that. It does have multi-factor authentication, as we call it. We have a new authentication system which doesn't come out of the box at present with CCH OneClick. It's not chargeable. It is free with CCH OneClick, but you do have to opt in at the moment in order to use it. it. And what happens is that you will then have a different login page in order to log in, and your clients and your employees will be able to set up this secondary method of authentication again via either via an SMS or an email that they receive, which means that every time they log in, they will enter their password and they will enter the secondary method of authentication, like a code or something like that. So that is a multi-factor authentication. As I mentioned, you do have to contact us in order to set that up separately, and then you have a choice to either make it optional, that your clients and your employees can choose whether they want to do that or not, or you can choose to make it mandatory so that all clients and all employees have to have multi-factor authentication in order to use CCH OneClick. We do have a lot of practices who are mandating that at the moment. It is considered to be best practices, specifically with GDPR. So we do support that. Yes, is the answer to that. Another question that I've seen in here: can employees use a shared mailbox? We do have a shared mailbox to a certain extent. I feel it's probably not what this individual is, probably exactly what this individual is looking for. I do get asked this quite a lot. Let me see if my virtual machine happens to be open still. Yes, it is. Brilliant. If I go onto my home page now, we've got a, okay, thank you. I keep getting these random notifications. You can see here on my homepage that we have a particular mailbox in here. This is a mailbox for this particular individual who happens to be logged in. This is Anna Copeland, and all the messages that she's receiving that's aimed at her. A lot of our practices who wish to use a shared mailbox, what they will do is, if they happen to be answering maybe for a particular partner or for someone who happens to be on leave, they can go ahead and they can choose to view a different employee's mailbox through here. So they would just go ahead and they would choose the employee that they want to view, and when they choose that, it will show that particular employee's messages in here. If you want to have a shared mailbox so that all of your, maybe you have a tax team internally who happen to pick out messages that come in and action them as they come in, a lot of the time what practices will do is they will set up a dummy employee, maybe called tax team or something like that. They will use that tax team to send out correspondence to their clients, and they will encourage their clients to send correspondence back to this dummy employee called tax team. And then all the employees can go ahead and they can pick a tax team as an employee, and they can view the messages come in for that tax team from here. So that's how you would manage a shared mailbox. However, I will caveat that what that will not do is if you respond, so if Anna Copeland then is looking at the tax team's mailbox and she chooses to respond, she will be responding as Anna Copeland. She will not be responding as a tax team. So that's really one thing to bear in mind when using that concept of the shared mailbox. We do get asked that quite a lot. We have been reviewing how we would build that, but there are quite a few questions around the design of how we would do that, which was why it hasn't really been implemented to date. But we do have this workaround if you wish to use that. And another question that I have here is, when you message a client, does reply go into your one-click area or onto the Outlook inbox? The reply from your client will come into your inbox, well, basically your inbox here, which is one I just showed you. And in fact, this is the message that I sent earlier, that Bruce Wayne rather sent earlier. So you can see it in your home page here. And then you'd also be able to see it within his particular message center here in CCH Central. So if I go in as an advisor, I can see it within the message center in here. So you can see here's a message that he sent earlier. So you've got it, you can see it both on the home page as they come in across all of your clients, or if you go into clients particular record, you'll see it in there. It's probably also worth mentioning, we have been focusing on the client side today. We do have the advisors CCH OneClick workspace. That particular workspace also has a messages and documents area. An employee rather, would be able to review the message that comes in from their clients in the messages and documents area in their own CCH OneClick workspace. Okay, excellent. So that is it for us from us today. So thank you very much for your time with us. We will be sharing a link to this webinar, I believe, especially for any of those who registered and couldn't attend. But otherwise, that is all from myself and Phil. Thank you very much for joining us.